to issue the notice of funding opportunity within 180 days. That's step one. Step two, which all 56 state applicants completed, is states who want to participate must submit a letter of intent. After they do that, they can submit a request for up to $5 million in planning grants. Then the NTIA, step four, has to review and approve and award, again, planning grants, not broadband grants, planning grants.
And it's still at the NTIA. It's still at the first step.
All right. So the NTIA must issue a NOFA within 180 days. States who want to participate must submit their letter of intent. Step three, they can request up to $5 million in planning grants.
Just planning.
Just planning. Step four, the requests are reviewed, approved, and awarded by the NTIA, which currently all 56, 3 years later, all 56 applicants had passed through at least step five. It took more than 3 years. So it's a long time. States must submit a 5-year action plan. So the states kind of go back and they kind of think about how they're going to do this. And they don't just say, okay, thank you for the money. We're going to spend it and you can see how it worked out later. We're like, here's our 5-year action plan. Then the FCC must publish the broadband data maps before NTIA allocates funds. So having done the NOFO, the letters of intent,
So people often ask me on this channel, Sean, what are your biggest objections to the Democratic Party? Is it the crime issue, which you cover a lot, and obviously that's a big one, but one of my biggest issues with them is the fact that they have this extensive regulatory state, this nanny state that watches over everything that you do, that prevents you from being able to do anything. And this clip of Jon Stewart literally being rendered speechless by Ezra Klein explaining to him how complicated something as simple as hooking up people to the internet, which happened for the majority of this country without any government interference, is a perfect example of that, because it's just a long-running, ridiculous, absurd process that, by the way, wasn't the product of Republican sabotage. It was the product of the Democrats, of the Democratic Party, running a program exactly how they intended. And this is why, 5 years in, maybe 4 years in to this program to hook up rural communities with high-speed broadband, no person has been hooked up to the internet. It has helped 0 people, despite the fact that they allocated $46 billion to this particular program. And that's what we're going to talk about today. This clip, the reaction to it we're seeing on social media, and how it's not just the federal government with broadband or the federal government with electric car chargers, which is another ridiculous program that gets bogged down in the red tape. It's everything. It happens on the local level all the time. All these stupid projects get bogged down with all these ridiculous rules, and we have to pretend like their actual stated goal is somehow noble and wonderful, therefore we can just allow them to pass whatever, when in reality, this is the result time and time again. This is what caused Barack Obama to infamously say there is no such thing as a shovel-ready project, because he ran into all this red tape when he was trying to do infrastructure back in 2009. Now, we're going to get into this. We're going to break this down. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
Request for planning grants, then the review, approval, and awarding of the planning grants, then the 5-year action plans. In between that, the federal government has to put forward a map saying where it thinks we need rural broadband subsidies. And then, of course, the states need an opportunity to challenge the map for accuracy. And you can imagine this doesn't all happen in a day. Okay. So then the NTIA, step 7, has to use the FCC maps to make allocation decisions. Then, having already done their letter of intent, the request for planning grants, it's hard even to talk about this, man. Step 7 is NTIA must use the FCC maps that were already challenged for allocation decisions. Then, having submitted all this, I think this one is actually quite amazing. Yeah. Having submitted their 5-year plans or letters of intent, step 8 is states must submit an initial proposal to the NTIA. Then,
is that the result of their $5 million planning fund? This
I
initial
assume,
proposal?
but then what was the 5-year plan?
And what the fuck did they apply for? What was their NOFO?
If the 5-year action plan...
So the clip that I'm showing you right here, where Ezra Klein is explaining all the complicated steps, again, put in by the Biden administration in order to hook up rural communities that are desperately in need of broadband internet service to said internet, is only in and around 1 minute and 50 seconds so far, and it's a 6-minute clip. It takes 6 minutes to explain the process, and already Jon Stewart is completely over it, and this is because there is absurd amounts of environmental impact studies, regulatory burdens, surveys, public comment periods, all this different other stuff that just bogs down these projects time and time again. And by the way, again, it is not just true of the broadband example, it is true of many Democratic programs at the state and at the federal level. And by the way, we are going to compare some Democratic state programs to Republican ones of a similar nature, just so you can get an idea of how stupid this all is, how unnecessary this is, and how needless this is.
Is it the initial proposal? Then what's the 5-year action?
Forget NOFO.
Okay.
MOFO.
Step 9, NTIA must review and approve each state's, again, initial proposal. By my read, we have had at least 2 initial proposals here, but that's a different issue.
Oh my God.
Step 10, states must publish their own map and allow internal challenges to their own map. So the government has published a map. They have invited the states to challenge the map. Then states have submitted initial proposals, and they then have to publish their own map and allow challenges.
Wait, who's challenging it within the state?
Well, organized interest groups, environmental groups, I don't know who specifically.
Again, the frustration on both of their faces is absolutely palpable, but this is what they supported. This is what they endorsed. This is what they back up. When Democrats talk about how regulations are necessary for safety, this is the result of said regulations. This is why Republicans have been challenging the regulatory state, because it makes any government proposal basically impossible.
But literally anybody. This is,
right.
I want to say something because it's very important I say this. This is the Biden administration's process for its own bill. They wanted this to happen. This is how liberal government works now.
This is something they instituted for this bill.
For their bill. This is a bill passed by Democrats with a regulatory structure written by Democratic administration. Okay.
Right.
Step 11. The NTIA must review and improve the challenge results and the final map. So the NTIA has put forward a map. The states have challenged that map. Then the states have put forward their maps, had other challenges. And now the NTIA must review and approve the challenges to the state maps. Okay.
And again, if explaining the process to people who are to the left of Democrats, more progressive, more in line for regulation than the people in Congress actually writing the rules, is this frustrating, you can only imagine what it takes to actually have to comply for this. And again, if you didn't catch it earlier on, they said that 56 states and territories ended up applying for this funding. 56 states and territories, but you're going to see how whittled down it gets by the end, because the regulatory threshold is just too long. And the idea that you're going to put up your initial proposal on step 8 after you've already sent a letter of intent, after you've already challenged their maps on where it was necessary, put forward a 5-year plan, and all these different other things that should count as your initial proposal, is just absurd. This is why this has taken 3+ years to even get to this point right here in this particular program.
So we've done step 11, NTIA must review and approve challenge results and final map. We've lost 9 of the applicants at that point. Step 12, states must run a competitive sub-granting process.
Oh my fucking God. At step 12, after all this has been done.
Yeah, none of that could have happened along the way here. We have now lost 17 more applicants. So now 30 of 56 have completed step 12.
Again, that frustration, that issue with the regulatory state is exactly why I don't support the Democratic Party. It's exactly why I can't support the Democratic Party, and I'm not all that upset by Trump trying to roll back masses of regulations, because hooking up people to the internet should be a relatively simple thing. We have internet companies that do it every single day. They build out their own infrastructure. They compete with fiber optic networks and whatnot in order to give you faster internet, but for whatever reason, giving away free internet is an overly convoluted, ridiculously complicated process that involves all these different various steps. Now, I'm going to skip a few because honestly, even I get bored listening to this, and we're going to get you to the end point where you see how many people dropped off of this particular program.
Step 13, states must submit a final proposal. All the proposals weren't enough to NTIA. Now that goes to 3 of 56. So we've gone in the last couple steps from 56 had gone to this point to 3 of 56. Step 14, the NTIA must review and approve the state's final proposal. And that is 3 of the 56 jurisdictions and states are there. In summary, states are nearly at the finish line. And it says to stop their progress now, or worse, to make them go backwards, would be a stick in the spokes of the most promising broadband deployment plans we have ever scene. End scene.
Yeah, that's right. The bureaucratic red tape, the process being this complicated, and again, the process is for rural people to get some internet because they desperately need it, is so rigorous, so ridiculous, so absurd, and it's so much the involvement and the creation of federal bureaucrats that the state bureaucrats end up being knocked out, and the, of course, territorial bureaucrats, and by the end point of this particular process, you end up out of 56 with 3 states/territories that are actually included in the final step that are still not approved. They still haven't laid 1 inch of cable across the country in order to provide this high-speed broadband, and you can see the frustration on everybody's faces just discussing this. And the thing is, it's not just broadband. It's not just this program. It's not just the Biden administration. It recently came out that the MTA's new capital plan is announcing that phase 2 of the Second Avenue extension is going to cost $4.3 billion per mile of tunnel built, which means that the budget for the 3 stops that they're going to build is going to be $7.7 billion. Now, I actually went on the internet and looked up France's metro system, Paris in particular, and the reason why is because it's heavily unionized and they have a lot of scandals with overruns and costs and all that stuff. Well, guess what? In France, they can build in Paris a mile of rail track underground for $450 million. How the hell is the New York City MTA now at 10 times the cost? And by the way, the article where I found this said that they just spent another $250 million on consultants for this particular project. $4.3 billion a mile, $7.7 billion for 3 stations, and in addition to that, those are the initial estimates. As we've talked about time and time again, the actual initial estimate oftentimes is doubled by the time the project is completed, so we're looking at potentially $15 billion, $8.6 billion per mile of underground tunnel to build out this stupid project. All while, by the way, the MTA is not doing regular ordinary maintenance. You guys wonder why I was so angry at the congestion tax going to the MTA? Even if I believed in the program and I supported the tax to reduce congestion, there was no way I could support it. It's because it's going to the MTA, one of the most corrupt agencies in the entire country. The worst of Europe is 10x better. It used to cost $1.5 billion just a couple of years ago to build a mile of track underground in the New York City subway system, but now it costs $4.3 billion. How the hell did that happen? I'll tell you how it happened. It was the Democrats. They always do this. California's rail thing, the same thing. They're estimating the cost of it at $130 billion. They've trimmed it down so it doesn't even go from San Francisco to Los Angeles. It spent 12 years in environmental review, going on 13 years, and they still have not done anything with the project. And by the way, to compare and contrast that to the Florida system, the Bright Line that was built by a private company without a cent from the federal government, they completed it in 4 years for a price tag of $5 billion. And by the way, that was 170 miles of track. So you could link major metropolitan areas like Orlando and Miami for the same cost about that it's going to cost you to build, according to current estimates, 1 mile of subway track and 2 out of the 3 stations maybe in the Second Avenue extension. You can build, again, that Bright Line that links Orlando to Miami in the state of Florida in less than 1/3 of the time, that it takes to almost, maybe, who the hell knows, complete the environmental review process in the state of California. This is the problem with democratic governance, and again, it's not just federal, it's everywhere. It's with everything. Every single one of their projects has to go through 1 million consultants. Everybody's got to get paid. You got to do the environmental impact studies. Nothing can ever be rushed. You got to look at, how is this going to affect the trees? Oh my God, we got to let everybody sue the companies in order to bog it down. And this is how every single project ends up being bogged down. Again, in California, they announced that if they don't get a new injection of $7 billion into their rail program, to which, again, there's still an environmental review, then the project's going to be kaput. If they don't get that $7 billion by next year, it's over and done with. Meanwhile, in Florida, they built the damn thing. Again, 3 times faster than it takes to not even complete the environmental review of the dam project in California for $5 billion, but they're $7 billion short of the project just going completely under. Just get rid of it. End it. Enough. You can't have nice things in the state of California because Democrats govern it. Again, it is not just the federal government. It is not just this program. It's everywhere these people govern. They always mess this up. They always bungle this. The only cities that are blue cities that seem to be able to do things are in states where the red state ends up restricting their ability to regulate, like the state of Texas. I've shown you chart after chart after chart where in Florida or Nashville or in Texas, different various cities there, they end up having an increase in the supply of housing and they start issuing permits so people can build new housing. And meanwhile, in New York, you got to get your plan approved. You got to hold this many units below market value. You got to have, only this many units above market value. We got to regulate the size. We got to do all these different other various things before you can even break ground. It takes a million permits. And of course, your project gets trimmed back all in the name of affordable housing. The same thing happens in San Francisco. The same thing happens in Los Angeles, and nothing ever gets built. All of these policies in order to improve affordable housing don't work at all. And all the places that don't have those policies that just let people build, the rents end up going down. It's not shocking when you have a supply and demand issue and all your regulations end up reducing the supply and demand is going up or stays the same, that prices go up. But apparently it is shocking to Democrats. And the same thing happens with any of these infrastructure projects. Oh my God, how does this affect this blade of grass? How does this affect all these different various things? We need a team of consultants, and the consultants need some sub-consultants so that maybe they could talk about eventually thinking about potentially discovering whether or not they're actually going to have more consultants to discuss this project. It's insane. It's absurd. And the crazy thing is about that Second Avenue line in New York that, again, they're now saying the phase 2, 3 stops, 1.8 miles of tunnel. That's all they need is going to cost that $7.7 billion, is that we don't even need the Second Avenue line. The Second Avenue line, for you guys who are unaware, is actually something that was replacing the High Line that was taken down in 1912. 1912, they took out this above ground rail line and they didn't do anything with the project, which was proposed first in 1920 for almost 100 years. Then they finished the first 3 stops back in like 2014. And now 10 years later, we're getting a ballooned cost that's probably going to go up again beyond that $7.7 billion to $15 billion for something that New Yorkers have not only adapted to, but every New Yorker who even remembers the freaking above ground line, they're dead. They died. It's over. It's 110 years. We didn't have it. It's fine. Everybody figured out a way around it. People know how to get around the city. We don't need these 3 stops. Can you do some damn maintenance on the train? No, never, because the Democrats are governing it. It's nonsense. You think Jon Stewart looks frustrated in that particular clip? Imagine actually not being a complete and utter ignoramus like both of these people, only just now figuring out that Democrats regulate too much and trying to function in these particular locations. Imagine trying to fight against it while these two doofuses advocate for more and more regulations all the time. It's absurd. It's insane. It's ridiculous. But this is where we're at in the United States of America. You can't ever do anything, especially in Democratic run states and cities, because they bog you down with rules and then they complain about disinvestment as they blow more and more of your money on consultants. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Jon Stewart figuring out what we knew all along. Till next time.